Hi, everyone, and welcome to Chronically Jill, the podcast where I, Jillian, also known as the Fibro Rebel online, will tell you all about my life with chronic illnesses, bring you more fun facts about fibromyalgia, and tell you the story of someone's day-to-day life with chronic illnesses. My pronouns are she, her. This is an independent podcast, which I am recording in my kitchen. We have a lot. And I mean a lot of animals and kids. So if there is occasionally barking in the background or other noises, like my kids sometimes, please understand. I will try to edit them out, but since I'm still figuring all of this out, please be patient with me. This podcast can and will contain explicit language, so please be forewarned. As this is an independent podcast, I would love it if you supported me on Patreon or Acast. For as little as $2 a month, you can get access to early episodes, ad-free content, merch, and more. If that's not something you're interested in, that's absolutely okay. I'm thankful for your support and just listening or sharing. If being on the podcast to tell your story is something you would be interested in, please email me at chronicallyjillpodcast@gmail.com or check out chronicallyjill.ca and fill out the form on the Contact Us page. I would love to have you on to tell your story. Today's fun fact about fibromyalgia isn't about fibromyalgia at all. Today we're going to learn about Ehlers Danlos Syndrome, or EDS as we are going to call it sometimes. This is a great time to throw in that I am not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. All of my information comes from research, personal experiences, the experiences of others who were kind enough to share with me, and doctors. EDS is a disease that weakens the connective tissue in one's body. This includes things like tendons and ligaments that hold one's body together. It affects things like joints, skin, and can affect the blood vessels. There are many different types of EDS, but today we're going to talk about the three most common. Hypermobility type EDS is characterized by the hypermobility of joints, and it can affect large and small joints. It's super common for people who have this to experience joint oh my gosh, I hate them. I stumble over this word every time. Subluxation, I think, or dislocation. It also affects the skin. Examples of that are bruising easily, stretchy skin, and soft skin in varying degrees. Musculoskeletal pain is also present and can be incredibly debilitating. I'm just going to throw in here that a subluxation, in case you didn't know, because I didn't, is a partial dislocation. I have talked to many people who were diagnosed with fibromyalgia and later went on to be diagnosed with HEDS or hypermobility Ehlers Danlos Syndrome. I'm actually currently waiting for a visit to the rheumatologist so they can determine whether or not I have fibromyalgia or HEDS or both. I've always had the skin stuff, easily bruising, soft, smooth, stretchy skin, etc. And I am extremely hypermobile. Doctors have always discounted it as nothing to be worried about because of course they have. But now with everything that I have learned about chronic illnesses in the last 2 years, I can't believe that they would just brush off so many things constantly. The next type of EDS is classical EDS. The main symptoms associated with classical is stretchy skin, also called hyperextensibility, scars, calcified hematomas, and fat-containing cysts commonly found on pressure points. Classical EDS can also have the joint hypermobility. The third type is vascular EDS, and it is the most severe type. Vascular Ehlers-Danlos can cause sudden ruptures of one's arteries or organs, which can lead to sudden death. How awful is that? People who have vascular Ehlers-Danlos also have very thin skin. The veins are very easily seen through it. Distinctive features such as large eyes, thin noses, lobeless ears, short stature, and thin scalp hair. Club feet are also not uncommon. Joint hypermobility can be present, but it is usually localized in the digits. So what causes Ehlers-Danlos syndrome? Simple genetics. If a parent has Ehlers-Danlos, there's a 50% chance that they are going to pass it along to each of their kids. So if you have joint hypermobility, fragile or stretchy skin, and a family history of Ehlers-Danlos, that's usually all they need to make a diagnosis. Or so the internet says. Again, don't believe everything you read on it, but some stuff has to be true, right? If you can manage to get into a specialist, they may send you for genetic testing. Sometimes blood testing can confirm a diagnosis. However, for hypermobile EDS, there is no genetic testing available. EDS is one of those fun, invisible illnesses that has no cure. The treatments that the Mayo Clinic suggests are pills for pain, Advil, Tylenol, etc., or blood pressure meds to keep it low if you have a type of EDS where your blood vessels are weaker than they should be. Surgery can also be utilized to repair joints that are weakened but from multiple dislocations. Ow! Or to repair broken blood vessels. Physio can also be used to strengthen the muscles around the loose joints to prevent subluxations and dislocations. If EDS is something that you want to talk to your doctor about, as always, my best advice is to keep a journal of your symptoms daily with as much detail as possible. Also, finding out if you have a family history of EDS before you talk to a doctor can be extremely helpful. We will be diving deeper into EDS as the podcast progresses. This is just an overview. I would like to do full episodes on every different type because there is just so much information out there, and this is just a tiny bit of it. If learning about a certain thing is of your interest, you can email me at chronicallyjillpodcast@gmail.com and give me your suggestions if you want. And now here's my chat with Beth, who tells me all about her life with her service dogs and learning to live with her disabilities. So, hi, Beth. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for having me. This is actually kind of awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. You said you had a bad night last night. Just what was happening?
Unfortunately, I suffer from functional neurological disorder, and it causes seizures and tics and stuff like restless legs. And last night, unfortunately, I ended up having 2 seizures, was up most of the night with some pretty painful tics throughout the night, and was supposed to work this evening, will not be working this evening, unfortunately.
Oh, that's awful. I'm really sorry you went through that or go through that more often. Oh, sorry, I was just trying to fix something on my computer. Okay, so so you have, that's the FND, right?
Yeah.
I can't remember the functional
neurological disorder. Even if you call it FND, that is perfectly okay.
Okay. There's so much that I've never heard of, and I just love learning about all of it. So what else do you have? You have fibromyalgia,
I have fibromyalgia, complex PTSD, pelvic floor dysfunction. Sorry, I apologize. I was talking to my dog there for a second.
Oh, that's okay. You'll see animals all through the background in mine.
I also suffer from a traumatic brain injury from one of my seizures. What's called post-concussion syndrome.
Okay, yeah, I've never heard of that.
It's more regularly seen in honestly, it's regularly seen in football stars and athletes. You may hear about it on occasion, but mine was from a fall from one of my seizures.
Oh, that's so terrible. So obviously a lot of that stuff happened because of other things, but how did you go about getting diagnosed with the stuff that started it? How long has it been happening for?
So I've gotten, obviously, as someone with disabilities, you understand you don't always get all your diagnoses at once. It's spread out through many years. I got my PTSD diagnosis pretty early on. I've been suffering from seizures for almost 8 years now. I only just got the full diagnosis I had gone to a clinic and video ECG in Toronto Western, and they keep you in hospital for anywhere from a couple of days to a couple of weeks, depending on what they need. And they record all seizure activity, all everything, your sleep activity, everything like that for that time period. And that's when it would have been 2 years as of this last November that I was diagnosed with functional neurological disorder firmly. And when it comes to my head injury, I'm actually only just coming on a year now.
Okay.
It actually had just occurred, last Easter, actually. Quite literally, a year.
So like a year. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's
It-
just so scary. Stuff like that's so scary. And I'm glad
It's
you're doing
um
okay.
yeah, it's gotten a lot better. It's gotten a lot better. When I was first recovering from my brain injury, I lost the ability to read. I couldn't stare at my phone. I couldn't look at watch the TV. I basically sat in my room with blackout curtains and laid there like with nothing.
And
So
that's improved though. You're starting to be able
yeah,
to like do stuff again. That's really good.
yeah, I can read again. Sometimes if I over push my brain too much, or if I haven't had as much sleep as I should, I've been going over too many hours. I do live with basically daily headaches now, basically constant headaches now. But I have ability to read again usually, unless I overdo it. It's kind of like fibromyalgia. When you overdo it, your body pays for it
Yep.
afterwards.
Yeah, I explain it like it's a payday loan to people who don't understand. I'm like, you can take like a little and you pay it back quickly and it's easy, or you take a huge one and
You're in bed for a week.
yeah, exactly. So how was the fibromyalgia diagnosis process for you?
I was actually pretty lucky on that one. I'm one of the rare exceptions, I think, on that one. I have an absolutely amazing rheumatologist who he did basically every test in the book, and then um what was it? Unfortunately, he did do pressure points, which I know is not a standard anymore, but I was diagnosed a few years ago. I don't remember exactly when pressure points were removed from the standard. I apologize.
Yeah, I don't know either. I know some doctors even still do them. Like my doctor did them 2 years ago, and she even said, we don't really do this anymore, but it's helpful to know if they're bad. And I had all of them, but
Yeah. Yep. That was basically me. I was like, okay, yeah, you're basically in pain everywhere. um I do take some medications. I take a nerve blocker that's prescribed by my doctor. Okay, Freya, thank you. All I can hear is you licking. Sorry, little golden face here.
oh my gosh, what a cutie.
That is actually my service dog in training.
Yes,
So
I'm actually really excited to talk to you about that stuff because I'm really interested. But let's finish the fibro diagnosis.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no, that's
Sorry, I
okay.
just wanted to pop her in the camera real quick.
Please always show me your animals. I love them.
um, so I am on a nerve blocker. I don't want to say it cures anything. I don't think there ever is a cure. Um, I am also prescribed medical cannabis, but that is more so for my seizures. But I do find it does help. It helps with the pain on days where there's nothing else. I don't want to encourage it with everyone or anything like that. Each your own, right?
Yeah, I've heard it does great things for a lot of people. I'm allergic to it. So I tried once and I got so sick
Oh
and
my
just
goodness.
never again. But yeah.
I used to be up to 20 seizures in a day. I used to be bedbound.
Oh no.
So it is a miracle for my seizure.
Yeah.
It is a
That's
miracle for my seizures.
that's amazing. I it's one of those things that I don't use it, but I wish it wasn't so stigmatized because it does great things for people. Like I read an article a few years ago about a little girl who was having like 50 seizures a day. And they moved out to Colorado because that was the only place they could get CBD at the time. They weren't like just CBD, not THC or anything. And her seizures went from 50 a day to like a couple.
Yep.
But they had to like move
I
across the country and they had to go through like all this like legal stuff. But like they'll give I have a kid that's on Adderall. They just, here,
Here
here
you
you
go.
go. Like,
Yep. I had to fight with so many doctors to get a doctor that would finally even consider, before it was legalized in Canada, before it I had to fight with so many doctors to get them to even consider sending me to a cannabis clinic, where they have doctors that actually do that.
Yeah.
Like you know what I mean?
Yeah. And now it's so easy. You can just be like, hey, I have pain here in my finger. And they're like, here's your card.
Yep.
Which,
Or nowadays in Canada, it is completely legal. So I'm pretty sure you live in Canada also.
yeah, I live in BC.
I'm in Ontario.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you have the ability to go recreational if you really need to, but
yeah. Well, that's
I
fair.
think that also can cause a bit of, I think that's where some of the stigma has come, even if anything.
Yeah. Well, because for so long it was just, the slackers and the bad kids and all that stuff. And now it's like, no, this is actually really good for people for medical reasons. And there's I think there's a lot of people that are never going to be able to make that jump. It's always just going to be bad. Right. But are you on any other meds or?
I'm on gabapentin, which is a nerve blocker for my fibro. I'm on a bit of a cocktail. With my brain injury, there's about 5 or 6 different minerals, vitamins and minerals they have me on because they're trying to keep me off more actual medications for that one, if they can. For my PTSD, I'm on like an antidepressant and an anti-anxiety medication. I apologize. They're not sitting right next to me, so I don't remember the names off the top of my head.
I don't remember some of mine either. I just know I take them. And I call my doctor. I'm like, hey, I need a refill. And she's like, oh, on which one? I'm like, the one that I take at night to sleep. She's like, oh, okay.
The blue one.
Let me look at them.
Yep. No, totally. That's me. I'm on a bit of a cocktail. I've found, luckily with my brain injury, we've been able to keep it largely natural based.
That's good.
Vitamins, minerals, changing anti-inflammatory diet. And that has helped largely.
Yeah.
But with the other stuff, medication becomes a part of life, unfortunately, when you have disabilities sometimes. It all depends on what works for you.
Yeah, 100%. How do you find the anti-inflammatory diet?
I admit I don't fully stick to it. Like I incorporate it, if that makes sense.
Oh, totally. I honestly don't see how anyone could possibly stick to it ever. I've tried. I think I made it 3 days, but
something that I found really helpful for me is finding the ingredients that, one silly thing is like red chili pepper. Finding ingredients, that's a bad example, but because not everyone likes spicy, but it's just the first thing that came to mind on that. Is there certain foods that are highly anti-inflammatory, and trying to slip those foods in where you can. Instead of, I find you have one life. And me personally, if I have to live that life very stringent, only eating certain things, it almost feels like, you good?
yeah, my animals are fighting.
It almost feels like you're losing a part of your life, if that makes sense.
That totally makes sense. 100%. I completely agree with you too. You have to walk a weird line where you have to do enough to feel okay, but
not enough that you feel like you're not living.
Yeah. Because like we're stuck with what we have. We can't leave our bodies. That's it. We are that.
We are who we are.
But I'm a big fan of trying to do things and not letting my chronic illnesses run my life, right? And it sounds like you are too, and that's awesome. I love that.
You take it by day. Some days the best you can do is make it to the bathroom. Other days the best you can do is, well, last summer I was still going backpacking.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. It's good. I love those days. They're the best. Okay. I want to know about your service dog.
I've had a service dog for probably about 6 years now. My first service dog, her name is Hope. She's an English Cocker Spaniel that is currently laying down in the other room right now, unfortunately. But she was through a company called Medical Sniffer Dogs in Angus, Ontario. And she is largely for my seizures. She is actually scent trained for non-epileptic seizures. You can scent train. It's very controversial with epilepsy. I don't know enough about it to speak on epilepsy, but I know with non-epileptic or functional neurological disorder, you can train very much like how they train airport dogs to sniff out food or airport dogs to sniff out certain substances.
Yeah.
You can train a dog to sniff out hormones that our bodies and chemicals our bodies release.
Okay.
To be able to foretell a seizure, I guess you could say. I don't want to say foretell because that, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Yeah, that's really, really neat.
Hope had a maximum of about a 10-minute warning. So for my seizures, I have no warning. I could be talking to you, having a conversation, and then I could be on the ground.
Okay.
So she was my warning system. She's getting a little bit older. She has some problems in her shoulders, so she's phasing into retire. Luckily, with her program, I get to keep her as a family pet. So she's going to say she's going to retire here and live life luxury. We are going through a slightly different program just because my disabilities have advanced. I'm sure you understand what I mean that, right?
Yep.
Sometimes
they do that.
And so we're going through a different organization called Prowess Paws, where we're having Freya be trained through, my golden retriever that you saw a little bit earlier. She's about 1.5 years old now. And she's basically been training age appropriate since she was 9 weeks old. Like she came home and she started the program basically of what, very, very slowly, but we started the program with her. She is also scent trained. We lucked out on that way. We lucked out on her very, very much so. She's only 1.5 years. She only gives about a 2 to 5 minute warning time. Still more than enough time to get to the ground.
Yeah.
But with my fibromyalgia having increased, my body pain, my dizziness, all the other wonderful symptoms that come with everything. There's a lot of different things that service dogs can do to help. With a really silly thing is with my passing out, I have blood that'll pool in my feet, makes me really dizzy. One of her tasks or one of her things she's learning to do is, it sounds silly, but I will actually put my feet up onto her and lay back. So it gives me, if you're in the middle of a store, you're in the middle of the mall, you don't always have a pillow to put your feet up on, or like stuff that you have the comforts of you're at home, or like, you know what I mean, right?
Yeah, for
like
sure.
Your disability kit, you don't always have all of that, and unfortunately sometimes you need it when you don't have it. She's been taught how to open and close cupboards for me and lower things so I don't have to bend over as much, which bending really isn't pleasant with a lot of these conditions.
No, I can imagine. Like I don't have any head injuries, but I get migraines and that's bad enough. I can't imagine what it's like to deal with that kind of stuff daily.
Yeah. A big thing for her with my pain is what's called DPT, or deep pressure therapy. It's something you see a lot of different service dogs for different disabilities. It can be used for autism. It can be used for chronic pain. It can be used for anxiety. It basically puts continual pressure and heat on your body. It's sort of like a weighted blanket.
Okay.
But it's like a heated weighted blanket, if that sort of makes sense.
That sounds really nice.
And if my hips are locking up, for example, I've taught her to be able to put her body specifically onto my hips and lay there, put the weight onto my hips. It allows them to relax and loosen up and use a huge amount of pain relief. It's a great amount of help for that one.
That's a really neat. I didn't know they did that.
It originally started, I believe, from human therapy. It's almost like a tight hug with autism kids. I don't know exactly how to explain it. I'm not trying to be rude in any way if I'm wording it wrong or anything.
Oh, I don't think you are.
But it's continual pressure on certain points of the body can actually calm your central nervous system. And that is largely what this entails. Like the main purposes of it is that, but then it also can be used, I'm sure, as I don't know if you use a heating blanket or a weighted blanket for your body pain, but
I have a weighted blanket.
They help. They really do help.
A lot. I love it. But if I put it on myself, it doesn't help as much. I like someone to lay it on me. Yeah. I don't know why it makes a difference, but it does, like a huge difference.
I feel you completely. It's, if I were to put, the funny thing is I can't actually stand actual weighted blanket, but I can have a 60-pound dog lay on me. Like, if that sort of makes sense. Like, I actually can't stand like the continual pressure everywhere on the body, only on the parts that I need it.
That makes sense.
But I know with service dogs, Canada is very, very different. From my understanding, BC is very, very different. I believe there's certification in BC. For Ontario, at least, you have a doctor's note. If you have a legal disability, your doctor, basically, putting it simply, prescribes you a service dog. It's a little bit difficult to explain, but it's governed by the AODA, which is Access for Ontarians with Disabilities Act. And unfortunately, everyone has their own opinions on the laws, right? Everyone has their own opinions on the laws, but at least for Ontario, that's what it is. I don't know a lot of the other provinces. You know what I mean? I know the province I live in. Only reason I think I know BC is because I want to go to BC's rainforest sometime in my life, if it ever
beautiful happens. It's literally outside my window. We moved out into the suburbs, which is right beside the forest, and it makes me so happy. But okay, so one thing I'm curious about is I see a lot of people with their dogs wearing the vest that they very clearly bought on like Amazon and stuff, because I've seen them. What's the legality in that?
Once again, I'm speaking from Ontario standards.
Yeah, that's fine. Just whatever you know, because I see it all the time, and I'm like, is that like
it? The vest does not make the service dog, in my personal opinion, and like in the legality of Ontario, the vest does not make the service dog. The training makes the service dog.
Yeah.
Because, like, I'm going to be a little harsh in saying this. I don't know how else to say it. People with service dogs are disabled. You know what I mean? We don't have the funds. We don't work a standard job. Money oftentimes is very, very tight. You can go to a company where you get like the standard, the nice looking service dog vest. Those vests are usually about $150.
Yeah.
As someone, example, if you were on disability, that's a large amount of money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where you can literally go on to Amazon. Maybe they don't look as professional, but they're still legal. They're still legally, like in Ontario, you don't actually even have to identify your dog. Yeah, I could walk my dog in a collar and a leash. I have in the middle of summer when it's really hot. I can walk her in a collar and a leash as long as I have my doctor's note on me, on my person in some way, shape, or form that they can confirm her service dog, like her being a service dog here in Ontario. The vest does not make the dog here, at least.
Okay.
I I don't know other places. I admit. Like, I don't know BC on that one.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I see it quite often, and I've seen them on like Amazon or even Wish for a couple bucks. And I've just,
I don't agree. I think there should be a lot more stringent on who can buy it, because it has allowed people to misuse it.
well,
If
and
that makes
yeah, and that's what I think too. Like, this is my emotional support animal when they just want to bring it with them into the mall,
And
right?
that's what actually people don't understand. And a lot of companies don't. Sorry, on that, just you said that, and it actually reminds me on something. What a lot of people don't understand is the difference between service dog, therapy dog, and emotional support animal.
Okay, yeah, I
Those
don't
are
know the difference. What's the difference?
completely three different things. Therapy dogs are dogs that are usually trained by an organization. Usually, like here, it would be St. John's Ambulance. I don't know if you have St. John's Ambulance in BC.
Yeah, we do.
Okay, I wasn't sure if that was Canada wide or not.
I think so.
They would be trained by St. John's Ambulance, is one of the big ones that do it here. They go into hospitals, old age homes. Sometimes they'll go into colleges to help students with tests. Sometimes you'll see them in courts helping little kids when they're at the stand.
Okay.
Those are therapy dogs.
Okay. When my kids went to get their COVID shots, they had dogs there. Would
those would have been therapy dogs.
Okay,
yeah, those would have been
okay.
therapy.
Okay.
Emotional support animal, it still can have a use. Still, when I say that it is a pet, I do not mean it in a rude way. They do not provide tasks. They support you. They would kind of be like your cat. They support you by being there, by having the ability to pet them, by like the ability of having an animal. I'm sure you understand, an animal in your life can provide a lot of increase to your life, just being there, just being.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, I wasn't saying anything against emotionally support animals, but I have seen people abuse the idea of it, and they're this is my emotional support animal, so I could take it everywhere with me, right? Like, and that's what I'm talking about.
That's the big thing, actually, that I was going to say. ESAs, or emotional support animals, have no public access by law.
Okay.
Generally, ESAs, or emotional support animals, are more so of a US term, because it allows, basically, if your dog is an ESA in the US, they don't have animal protection. Like, I don't know about in BC, but they can't kick you out for having an animal unless your animal causes damages and so on and so forth.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the same there or not.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Basically, an ESA, a landlord cannot kick you out. And I know, at least in Ontario, that's why you don't see ESAs as often, because our laws already protect that. So basically, here in Ontario, an ESA, or an emotional support animal, would almost just be a pet. And that is in no offense. That is not me being rude in any way. That is like the legality terms of it.
Okay.
Where a service dog is individually trained. So it is trained for one specific person. If you and your husband both had disabilities, for example, your service dog would be trained for your disability specifically, on what you need. Because both of us have fibromyalgia. Not all of the same things are going to help me that are going to help you.
No, for sure.
Sometimes some of the things that help me may even make you worse, for example. So they're individually trained for whatever the need is for that specific person. So Freya would be considered a multi-purpose service dog, because she does medical alert. She does the letting me know about the seizures, but she also does opening doors. She also does DPT. She also does like a wide variety of other things that help, other than just in psychiatric conditions, other than just in medical alert. If that sort of makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely makes sense.
And service dogs are the ones that have full public access. Service dogs are the ones that should be in the mall, that should be going around to the movie theaters, the restaurants, the
Okay.
Service dogs should be well behaved. And that is the big thing that a lot of businesses don't understand. Even if they say it's a service dog and that dog is grabbing food off the counters and peeing on things and barking and like, being a menace, you still have the grounds to ask that dog to leave
Okay.
legally, because the training is what makes the dog a lot of the time.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't know I didn't know a lot of this. This is really interesting. So do you use any like mobility aids or anything to get around, or?
When my body is bad, when my seizures used to be bad, I used to use a wheelchair, because after my seizures, my legs don't work right. Like, they just don't work right. They just don't want to walk.
Yeah.
It's the easiest way of putting it. I apologize.
Oh,
So for quite a period of time, I used to use a wheelchair. With my seizures being less, luckily, I'm not currently in a wheelchair. I do still have one, but I'm not currently in one. I have had to use a cane or a walker, depending on how bad either my body pain or my dizziness is that day. But I'm stubborn. Does that?
Oh, I get that.
Okay. There's a lot of times where my husband will look at me and be like, well, just bring this. Who cares what other people think? And I'm like, I'll just do it. I'll be fine.
Yeah, I get that way about like doing stuff. Like yesterday, my husband and I switched sides of our room because I don't even remember he wanted to, but we switched closets and we moved sides, and I did it all by myself because I just wanted to get it done. And I was like moving nightstands and stuff, and he's like, you didn't have to do that on your own. I'm like, I know, but
it needed done, and I did.
I wanted it done, so I did it, and now today I'm in so much pain, but I did it.
I feel that.
Yeah, or like our in-laws live in our basement suite, and my father-in-law gave me an office chair. It's over there somewhere, but I was determined to bring it upstairs on my own because my husband made some like snide comment about, well, I guess you'll need help upstairs. And I'm like, fuck you. No, I don't.
I won't. Watch me.
Yeah. And just threw it on my back and carried it up the stairs. And that was such a bad idea, but like,
your back probably screamed afterwards. Very, very bad.
Oh, I get the stubborn thing.
Yeah. So like I do use two aids, but not as often as I probably should.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for anyone who's like in the diagnosis process or is newly diagnosed and just starting out?
I have a saying, like my husband says I should get it tattooed on my forehead, is like what he says, is generally try to take it day by day. There's going to be times where you literally just have to take it second by second, because that's all you can handle is this very second that you're in. And if that's all you can handle, that being this very second that you're in, you're doing it. You're still succeeding in surviving that very second. Don't worry about the second after it. Don't worry about tomorrow. Don't worry about what, like, you have to worry about it to a point, but look at what you're succeeding every second of the day. We're bad bitches. We're bad bitches, pardon my language. Like, look at what a lot of people in our situations, if they went through what we go through on a daily, would be curled into a ball, not wanting to move, not wanting to get up. They would be in bed every single day of their life. Yeah. Know what you make, know what you succeed in, like, is a big thing that I used to try to judge myself off of the standard norm, 9-to-5 job, able to work, able to, do the normal.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, our bodies aren't normal. Much as we want our bodies to be, we may never be. So it's finding our normal.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Because I know I struggle with that. I know a lot of people do. where you're just like, well, I can't do this. And no, you can't. But look at all this other stuff that you can do. And okay. One of the questions I like to ask, it's not a super easy one, and I have had people who can't answer it, but have your chronic illnesses and your disabilities brought anything good into your life?
That's actually kind of an ironic question. I'm gonna put a trigger warning out there just in case, because there was mention of abuse for a split second, if that's possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can put one at the beginning of the episode too. No problem.
Okay. I went through a really not nice childhood. It's where my PTSD has come from. It's where a couple of other things have come from. They're pretty sure. If I hadn't of moved, I moved out at 18, and I moved a good 3 hours away from my mother and moved into this little basement apartment. Had I not moved and ran away, and yes, in that time period, my health failed. My health went down the drain pretty quickly. I'm pretty sure there's probably a lot of people out there that you're healthy, and then you're not.
Yeah.
And it's a very big you're not. I wouldn't have met my husband. I wouldn't have had any of the animals, like any of my dogs I've had. I wouldn't have the friends. I'd still be there. If that makes sense. I know that's not always that's not the case, but it's also gotten me to the point where you can realize, when you start realizing other people come to you for their opinion, you realize that you've lived it. That sort of makes sense. Does that sort of answer the question?
Yeah, absolutely. And how long have you been married for?
It'll actually be 4 years as of this August.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. And just, I know that it's a really hard thing to deal with partners with that have disabilities and chronic illnesses and stuff. How's your home life? How's your husband dealing with it?
My husband is a saint. I want to put that out. My husband, we got together when we were 20 years old, and most people that age, having someone that all of a sudden their health is failing and you're just starting a relationship, most people would have ran. Yeah. Most people would have ran so far and so fast. Poof, basically. But he is a saint. I truly would not have made it without my husband. I truly feel that, but no relationship is perfect. No. You know what I mean? Every relationship has arguments. Every relationship has disagreements. But at the end of the day, I know he has been through so much with me that he's been there through the worst. It means the world, really.
That's awesome. Yeah, my husband's the exact same way. He's just amazing with everything. And we do fight. We fight about my disabilities because no one, it's so hard to deal with. And because you never know, I'll be yeah, let's make all these plans. And then I'm no, I'm on the couch.
Or oftentimes I don't know if you ever have these problems when you're beating yourself up because it's well, last night, it was a perfect example. I fell into a pit where I was beating myself up because of the seizure. And I had a friend over that had seen me have the seizure. And my husband just kept looking at me and be stop beating yourself up. You don't have control over this. And he got to the point where he got a little frustrated because I kept beating myself up, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really like talking about this stuff because it's a lot of people, I think they need to know that in partnerships, we fight about our disabilities. It happens. If we didn't, that would be weird. It's a lot of my life, the things that I can't do. And
the anger we feel towards medical professionals.
Yeah.
They end up feeling towards medical professionals too.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. But even with our partners and stuff, you can't expect them to just be okay with everything all the time. Disappointment's going to happen. It's natural. And I don't know.
While we live it, they're sitting there watching the person that they love.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And
it's a completely different. And
but it's so hard for them too. And I know I've seen, there's a TikTok creator who I really didn't like. I don't remember their name, but they said stuff. They were talking about like, oh, my partner just deals with all my stuff with a smile on his face. And I'm like, that's going to blow up.
Yeah, that's not
Like,
gonna
that's
end
not
fairly.
gonna last.
Yeah.
Because you have to talk about it, you have to communicate, you have to get that stuff out, because expecting another human being who has thoughts and feelings to just be 100% okay with all of the crap that happens to you it's a bit of a fairy tale, in my opinion.
Everyone has good days, everyone has bad days. And if it's stressing us out, imagine how much it's stressing them out.
Yeah, because like I know when I'm having bad days, like my husband picks up the slack. Like he cooks most of the time anyways. He's a way better cook than I am. And I'm pretty good. But he gets the kids doing stuff. He does the dishes and all of that. Well, I am on the couch unable to move, and expecting someone to do all that without being a little bit frustrated is
it's gonna get frustrating.
Yeah, like I would be frustrated if I was the one dealing with it. But I love preaching about open communication and just letting people know your feelings and all that. Because, well, yeah, like I said, you can't
have a healthy relationship unless both people are allowed to have a healthy communication.
Yeah, like if you're just like, oh, well, I'm sick, so you have to just deal with all of my stuff and not make me feel bad about it. And
I also do feel there is a slight, there are people, at least in my family that I can think of, that are exact opposite end, where they almost pretend that you don't have a disability and they make you feel bad about it. Does that make sense? So it's a balancing act.
Yeah.
If your partner is sitting there making you feel like a pile of poop because you are disabled, that's not okay.
Oh no, that's awful too. But I don't know. My husband has he's like, I am frustrated with what's happening right now. I know it's not your fault.
No,
and you don't control what's going on with your body, but I am frustrated. So I'm going to just go do this and you stay here, but understand that I'm frustrated, but I know it's not on you. And I'm like, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, like the two ends of the scale, right? The two ends of the scale. There's that end of the scale, and then there's this, unfortunately, the people that, oh, well, you can do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
You're like, no.
I know. And I'm neurodivergent too, probably ADHD. I'm way too cheap to pay for a diagnosis. But I have that like executive dysfunction thing where you want to do something and you just can't. It doesn't matter how easy it is, you just can't do it. And I try explaining that to someone who doesn't understand.
I have autism, so I understand what you're meaning.
Yeah.
I understand what you're meaning.
And yeah, it's like my family, they're like, oh, well, it'll take 2 minutes. Just go put the laundry away. I'm like, I would really like to. That would be awesome. That would make me really happy, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. You go force yourself to do it. It's the sort of thing you're going to end up curled into a ball, like just being like, I cannot do this.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so before we end, do you have anything that you want to add?
Biggest thing that I guess I could put out to people that are fighting for a diagnosis is like, don't give up. I know doctors are meant to help us, and they do want to, but our medical society is highly flawed nowadays, unfortunately. And I know they try to help us, but us as patients, we feel lost a lot of the time. Know that you're not lost alone, if that makes any sense.
No, it does. Of course it does. That was really good. I like that. I really want to thank you for talking with me today.
Thank you for having me on this. Truly, I had seen your video, and I think you were saying you were looking for people, and I was like, you know what? Worst that's going to happen is she's not going to answer me, or she's going to be like, no. So
I I love talking to people, and I'm not very good at it. I'm trying to get better at this, but I love learning about all the different things. It's so interesting to me. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and it's always people that have like not necessarily famous, but people who are trying to put themselves out there and all this stuff. And those aren't the people that I want to know their stories. I want to know the stories of the people who live day-to-day life with what's going on. And because
You want to know someone like you, not someone.
yeah, and I know there's so many celebrities and stuff that have chronic illnesses and all that, but like I'm telling you, if I had millions of dollars, my life would be different.
We would be doing things differently. We would be doing things differently.
Like,
they still suffer, and I'm not meaning that in any
no,
less way.
absolutely.
But they have access to different treatment methods than standard.
And like you were talking about the autoimmune diet. I've been recommended that if I could hire like a chef to cook delicious meals for me within that diet, I could follow it. The problem is I don't have the time, the energy, or the money to keep it up because it's really expensive sometimes.
Yes.
And like we eat fairly healthy, but we also eat a lot of Kraft dinner. And or Mr. Noodles. It's a balance.
Yep.
But
you got to be able to live your life still.
Yeah, if
you live your life having carrots every single day of your life, and you're having your salad, you're having your the perfect meals that you possibly could, and then you get to 80 and you look back and you're like, well, rats, I wish I'd had that lobster. I wish I'd had that Big Mac. I wish I'd had that. Like, you know what I mean?
Yep, absolutely. But I feel alone a lot of the time. And I know that most people who deal with disabilities and chronic illnesses and invisible illnesses and everything do too. And I want people to know that they're not alone, that they're not the only ones going through it, that there's people out there that understand them and are living the same thing and having the same struggles. Or at least that's the goal.
1,000,000%. Yes.
I really appreciate you talking with me today.
I thank you for having me.
I want to once again thank Beth for coming on. I really enjoyed our conversation. I'm very sorry I'm sick as I'm recording this outro, in case you can't hear it in my voice. This is an independent podcast. Any support that you give us is highly appreciated. If you would like to go to our Acast or Patreon and donate as little as $2 a month, you get access to early episodes, ad-free content, merch, and more. And if that's not something you're interested in, that's totally okay. Just listening, sharing, and subscribing is awesome. If being on the podcast is something you're interested in, please go to chronicallyjill.ca and fill out the form. And I hope you all are having an absolutely fantastic day. Lots of love and gentle hugs.